Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I have an incredible story to share with you that happened last Sunday, and I've been contemplating whether to post it or not. But before I dive into the details, let me provide a bit of backstory. I'm a 14-year-old boy with ADHD, which unfortunately causes me to have a severe stutter. My friend, also 14, has autism and usually wears noise, canceling headphones to help him cope with sensory overload. Due to these challenges, we often communicate using British Sign Language, BSL. It's a great way for us to connect since I don't stutter when signing, and he can enjoy the peace of silence. Additionally, I've found solace in physical activity such as going to the gym and going for runs, which helps clear my mind. As a result, I've become quite muscular. Now that we have that out of the way, let's jump into the story. My friend and I were leisurely strolling along one of our usual paths, blessed with breathtaking views and minimal car traffic. As the British heat was sweltering, we decided to take a break at a pub or bar for our friends across the pond. Halfway through our walk, hoping to cool down with a refreshing lemonade or shandy, depending on our luck. Throughout our time at the pub, we communicated solely through sign language, enjoying each other's company. Once we settled into our seats, the last ones available in the covered outdoor area, a woman whom I'll refer to as Karen approached us, accompanied by a young child. In a haughty and boisterous voice, she proclaimed, "Boys, I believe those seats are reserved for me. You see, I happen to know the pub owner, so you'd better move. Besides, you weren't even speaking, so just take your drinks to go." Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's the twist. We also happened to know the owner since he's the father of my friend who was with me at the time. With a modicum of composure, I managed to form a coherent sentence and responded, we were talking just in sign language. Karen, seemingly disregarding her unruly child who was throwing a tantrum, retorted, "Oh, so you're pretending to have a disability? What's wrong with your generation?" Feeling nervous, I stuttered, we're not pretending. We simply prefer to communicate this way." At this point, Karen lost her composure completely. She began hurling a torrent of insults at us, demanding that I speak up and rudely insisting we effing move. In her fit of rage, she even attempted to physically grab me and my friend, intending to toss us off the bench. This triggered a meltdown in my friend, his autism, making it difficult for him to handle such overwhelming situations. Thankfully, his father, who had noticed something was amiss, rushed outside to intervene. Yet, the tirade from Karen continued, punctuated by her jabbing a finger into her chest after every word. At this juncture, I had reached my limit, and I responded forcefully, matching her intensity. As Karen stumbled backward from my retort, she somehow managed to maintain her balance, despite her ample physique. However, in the process, she accidentally stepped on her child's finger as he lay on the ground crying and wailing. This only exacerbated his distress. And finally, Karen's gaze shifted to the true hero of our story, my friend's dad, who was embracing and comforting his son, unaware of the connection between the person he was consoling and the woman who had assaulted us moments ago. In her oblivious state, Karen screeched, "Manager, this person just assaulted me!" At that moment, my friend's dad turned a shade of red that rivaled a strawberry. I couldn't tell them apart even if I squinted without my glasses. He proceeded to unleash a torrent of expletives at this woman, using a vocabulary even I was unfamiliar with. Since Karen remained undeterred, he bellowed, "I will call the police if you don't leave this instant." Finally, spurred into action, the woman hastily dragged her wailing child off the ground and scurried away like the vermin she was. Left in the aftermath was an autistic child in the midst of a meltdown, myself feeling rather irritated, a fresh crack in the recently installed decking caused by Karen's stumble, and dents on the floor where the child had thrown his tantrum, stomping his feet. Additionally, we had one furious pub owner. Nevertheless, the drinks were a welcome reprieve, considerably stronger than a shandy, as my friend's dad put it. Unfortunately, we had to cut our walk short since my friend was still in a distressed state. I, a 30-year-old man, currently reside with my mother, 53, and her husband, around 50, in a 2-bedroom townhouse. For the past 3.5 years, my mother hasn't been employed while her husband works full-time on a seasonal basis. However, his wages are reduced due to his employer paying lawyer fees to keep him out of jail a few years ago. As for me, I work tirelessly, clocking in full-time hours and even overtime, totaling around 60 hours a week at a federal company. I secured this job back in 2019. Back in 2016, I moved into the townhouse with my mother. At that time, I was working part-time but managed to land a full-time position that paid well, offering $16 an hour plus overtime, which was pretty good for a 23-year-old. I shouldered half of the rent, the entire light bill, which was over $400 due to outdated infrastructure in Connecticut, as well as covering the costs of food, my mother's cell phone bill, fuel for her car, and even buying her cigarettes. Since I didn't own a car back then, she would often drive me to the bus stop, and I would express my appreciation by giving her money for gas and cigarettes. However, my job was contractual, and I wasn't converted to a permanent employee. Consequently, I had to find a new job, which came with a slight pay cut. Moreover, full-time employment with this new company meant working 33 hours a week, but I could work from home. By 2017, my mother had managed to pay off most of her car and was in a stable financial situation. Unfortunately, I began to struggle with paying the full light bill and half of the rent due to my reduced income. Despite showing her my bank account to prove that I couldn't afford it, she made it into a big issue, insinuating that I willingly chose not to contribute. Fast forward to late 2018 when my mother started dating her now husband. I was genuinely happy to see her building a life for herself. Around the same time, I landed a well-paying full-time job, and things were looking up. Then, my mother decided she wanted to move in with her boyfriend, leaving me in the townhouse as a gift along with the furniture, provided I could manage all the bills independently. I agreed to the arrangement, although it should be noted that this gift came after she stole the title to my car from my room and sold it to a family member without my knowledge, pocketing the money. Fast forward to August 2019, when I got hired by the post office, a job that paid exceptionally well and offered more hours than I knew what to do with. Finally, I was able to live on my own and enjoy my independence. But then, in March 2020, I received a call informing me that my mother had quit her job, citing concerns about commuting. She had moved to a town 2 over, and claiming that her workplace was allowing COVID patients to come in. As a result, she decided to become a stay-at-home wife in the midst of the pandemic. I gave her $200 as a birthday gift, and she managed to turn that into yet another monetary request, which, unfortunately, I foolishly complied with. To make matters worse, her clueless husband reassures her that he can handle the bills while she takes a break because she supposedly deserves it. However, the reality is that he can't afford anything. It's like sweeping dirt under the rug, except the dirt in this case is bills that keep piling up. And guess who they call when shut-off notices and year-old overdue rent come knocking? You guessed it, they call me. Since my mother was listed on the original lease and we never informed the landlord about her moving out, there wasn't much I could do. The initial plan was for them to move in with the intention of saving money to buy their own home, leaving me with my own space again. But here's the kicker. Half-Brain's credit score is in the 400s, and my mother, who isn't working, couldn't even apply for a loan, so their brilliant solution became, I'll collect unemployment and save for a house. My mother managed to finagle unemployment benefits while her husband hopped from one job to another a total of 5 times since then. Meanwhile, I've been shouldering the majority of the expenses, like a 70-30 split, because apparently they needed to save, and according to them, I've been covering it myself anyway. Every time I mention the idea of moving out or discuss apartment hunting going well, I get threatened with eviction, or my mother even threatens to call the police. She goes as far as reaching out to our family, spreading false stories about me, sabotaging things. She plays the victim card, saying things like, I sacrificed my life for you kids and you don't appreciate anything. It's almost like a slogan in this house. What's even more absurd is that she has managed to convince our family that she has been working for the past 4 years. She bought a whole computer and places it on the kitchen table to create the illusion that she works from home whenever someone comes over. This level of deception is mind-boggling, and her husband just blindly supports it like a complete fool. I desperately need to escape this situation, but I can't seem to save enough for rent and a deposit while also juggling the responsibility of paying $1,250 for rent and utilities 70-30 split, along with covering all my own expenses like food, personal care products, car insurance, cell phone bill, gas, and unexpected costs. Just had to replace my alternator 2 weeks ago. In central Connecticut, the average cost for rent and a deposit is around $3,000 or more. All the while, my mother sits comfortably at home, bad-mouthing me to her husband and anyone who will listen. And let me tell you, she doesn't hesitate to speak poorly of those people as well, including her broke-ass husband, as she likes to put it. I don't want to harbor resentment towards my mother, but the feeling of being taken advantage of has consumed my thoughts for far too long. Lately, I can't even exchange pleasantries with her without feeling bothered. Am I being too harsh in my judgment, or is this the epitome of entitled mother bullcrap? My mom and I found ourselves at the vet's office with our cats, patiently waiting for our turn to see the doctor. Amidst the hustle and bustle, a vet technician emerged from the back carrying a tiny dog, barely the size of a Coke bottle. The adorable creature caught my attention, but I tried to focus on minding my own business. However, I couldn't help but overhear an intriguing conversation unfolding nearby. A woman, whom we'll refer to as Karen, approached the receptionist, expressing her need to purchase some food for her dog. The receptionist, being helpful, asked Karen to provide details about the specific brand or type of food. Karen, seemingly clueless about the details, insisted that the clinic must carry the food she needed. The receptionist, undeterred, politely asked Karen to show her the dog food so they could identify it accurately. However, Karen adamantly refused, claiming she couldn't because she was holding her dog. This back and forth between Karen and the receptionist continued for a while, as the two receptionists and our vet tech diligently tried to decipher the brand of dog food without any visual aid. Karen, growing frustrated, sought assistance from another woman who appeared to be working in a managerial capacity. Unfortunate for Karen, the woman politely declined, explaining that she was occupied with call center duties. After some time, the receptionists finally managed to figure out the brand of food Karen needed, allowing her to purchase it. However, due to a delayed food shipment that week, the clinic had only received a limited supply of the specific brand. They informed Karen that they had only 7 cans available instead of the 12 she desired. Karen's annoyance was palpable as she insisted on receiving all 12 cans. The vet tech explained that they wouldn't have additional stock until Thursday, reiterating that they could only provide her with 7 cans at the moment. Reluctantly, Karen accepted the situation, but not without expressing her intention to return for the remaining 5 cans. After paying for her purchase, she absent-mindedly left her wallet and the dog food behind as she rushed to take her furry companion to the car. Another kind-hearted lady attempted to call out to her, but the receptionist assured her that Karen would be back soon. Unfortunately, I was unable to witness the conclusion of the story as our vet tech promptly escorted us to our examination room. I later discovered that Karen did return, still clutching her dog tightly. Later, as we sat in the examination room, my mom and I reflected on the situation. Frustration evident in her voice, my mom remarked she could have easily shown them the dog food while carrying her dog into the room. I nodded in agreement, responding with a sigh. I know. It's moments like these that make you wonder how Karens come to be.